Medical Engineering News. I'm your host, Nicholas A. Casado. I am so grateful to be here. I'm not getting any audio, just video today, so let's just get going because it's going to be a wonderful day if you can keep up. Let's turn this up and you can hear me okay, probably only on one side of the ear. It doesn't matter too much, but it's a Halloween special. Happy Halloween! Congratulations. Thanks for showing up and having fun today. Yeah. Halloween special. Alright, so to start off, we've got some pretty interesting news, some spooky news. Some scary medical devices. Yes, that's our spooky news. And then we've got Canadian scientists find markers in blood they believe are linked to severe COVID. Moving forward, we've got a business startup for pain relief. Now they got $52 million. Next up, we got everything you need to know about COVID for traveling. Holidays are coming up. Get ready. We've got that already. Got some scary movie stuff. Hospital stories for Halloween. Probably the more scary stories. Yeah. And the real scary story is that the PCR test wasn't actually meant to detect a virus. That's the real story. And we got some literature stuff. So whatever you want to read, how to become a smarter person. Yeah. Got some videos on these smart books that you can read, and some discussion on the abstract about how horror movies manipulate brain activity to enhance excitement. That's all. And it's gonna be a great day. And our biohack of the day: watch a horror movie because it's actually good for your health. So let's get right into it. Let's play a little soundtrack. Okay, let's switch the screen up. Cool. Alright. So, these are some top 10 scary medical devices throughout history, special Halloween edition. And if you'd ever had any phobias, fear of the doctor is probably a big one, especially when you see these little gadgets. So first up, we got the tonsil guillotine. Just like the guillotines used during the French Revolutionary period, these instruments were to perform the tonsillectomy during the mid-1800s. So it was rather simple to use them. You position the tonsils inside the rings, pull the spring-loaded rings, and the doctors eventually stopped performing because it's sort of like you have the tonsils and then it just sort of slides in there. They stopped doing it because there was a lot of complaints of hemorrhage. Bleeding from the head. It says boom. Be painful. The same procedure today happens actually with anesthesia. But at first they cauterize it too. Gnarly. Never had my tonsils removed. I don't know. Alright, so the next one is ectasia. And this is to remove various growths, including tumors, polyps, hemorrhoids, consists of the esophagus, larynx, uterus, and ovaries. The écraseur, which is French for crusher, was the instrument of choice. Where the loop at the end of the instrument could be sawtooth, chain, or simple wire, which could be employed to strangle, crush the growth, preventing hemorrhage by restricting blood supply, like a tourniquet. After lassoing the base of the growth, the doctor would turn a screw to apply pressure. Similar instruments were used in veterinary to castrate livestock. Sounds painful. Alright, we've got the skull saw. This is classic. The skull saw was mainly utilized between the 1830s and 1860s. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's a hand crank saw used to cut through sections of the skull. Pretty gnarly. You got a saw blade. And then you got a hernia tool. So after you have your hernia, you insert this near the affected area and you leave it there for a week to produce scar tissue that helps seal off the hernia. And then the Tephrine is hand drill used to make circular holes in patients' skulls. Wow. To attempt to treat epileptic seizures and skull fractures. They would use this to treat trivial conditions like mental illness. So just twist it and Lithone, which is a bladder stone, which is a common problem when people eat low protein diets. Doctors typically cut these stones out by making incision in the peripheral raphe, exposing the bulb of the urethra. Wow. Ugh. Is this kidney stones? Ow. Okay, so it contained two adjustable hidden blades that would spring out and cut the dilate of the neck of the bladder. Surgeon would then begin probing the forceps of the stone, fell earlier through the wall of the rectum. These operations took approximately 5 minutes as doctors didn't want to prolong the patient's suffering during these pre-anesthetic days. Alright, there's an artificial leech. There was a time when bloodletting with leeches was a popular treatment for a range of medical conditions. The artificial leech was invented in 1840 and was used frequently in eye and ear surgery. The rotating blades would cut a wound in the patient's skin, where a cylinder would be used to use a vacuum that sucked out the blood. Forget Dracula. Leeches are real, they suck blood, but in this case, science actually. Okay, next up we have the ostomone. Osteotome was used extensively in the 1800s to perform amputations. So before anesthesia, amputations were painful and dangerous. Bones were often splintered and the tissue around them damaged by the harsh impact of a hammer and chisel or jolts of a saw. Surgeons turned to osteotome to speed up the procedure while reducing the risk of complications. This device was cranked manually, utilizing a chain and sharp cutting teeth to cut through the bone and virtually everything else. Dental key. In the late 1700s, dentistry was hardly sophisticated. When someone needed to get a tooth pulled, a dental key was the primary solution. How did it work? Well, just like it sounds, the key's claw would be placed over the tooth and the bolster would be placed along the tooth's root. Yeah. You turn it and twist like a key until the tooth was pulled out, root and all. According to the 2005 Industry Review, the dental key caused more accidents in industries than all other tooth extraction instruments before the 1900s combined. So if you need to be a scary dentist, this is your one. The last one, the tobacco smoke enema. It's not a classical surgical device, but this instrument really demonstrated the state of the medical practice in the mid-1700s, the early 1800s. Tobacco enema was to infuse tobacco smoke into a patient's rectum for various medical purposes, primarily the restriction of resuscitation of drowning victims. A rectal tube was inserted into the anus and then connected to a fumigate and bellows system that forced smoke towards the rectum. Additionally, the warm smoke was thought to promote respiration. That's pretty fun. Great. Thanks for listening to that. I had fun. Did you? All right, let's move forward. Missed out on a lot of that sound effects, whatever. Okay, next up we got the Canadian that found these blood markers in the blood. And this immunologist says they're finding telltale markers, that predict severity of COVID-19. And David Calvin from Dalhousie University. Well, he wrote a study that draws links between the severity and the presence of large amounts of virus genetic material, RNA, in blood samples. So Jesus Bargimento Martin of Institute of Biomedical Investigation of Excellence led a group of 36 medical researchers tracking patients coming into Spanish hospital wards and ERs, looking for about 30 so-called biomarkers in the blood plasma. So it started in the first wave in the spring, and they published it in the journal Critical Care. Doesn't go into too much detail. It says there was this is silly. I should be out there working out. Told myself I'd do it later, but here I am. Well, the main treatment for severe COVID-19 is steroids. The steroid is like a sledgehammer. It tamps down the entire immune system and may decrease the things we need our immune system to fight. So if you want the specific treatments, steroids, I didn't know that. Cool. Moving forward. Okay, so we got this pain relief startup, $52.5 million deal. Alright, so Lucas Rodriguez, all these letters next to his name. Well, he's got a business plan for CerSci, which he began working on as doctor at UT Dallas, hearing his research about Dr. Ted Price, which Eugene, professor of neuroscience and associate professor of neuroscience. So these longtime faculty collaborators became mulling over which research products could eventually be commercialized. When he urged them to focus on their plans for a non-opioid anesthetic, which could be the first such product in a decade or so, given the nation's opioid epidemic. It seemed quite especially critical to have a product for acute pain relief that would not expose a million people to addiction. Well, they acquired a molecular compound called CT044, which was invented by Scott Dax, who later became Cycer's chief scientific officer. So CT044 works on the source of pain without interacting with the opioid receptors in the brain. This acquisition transformed the organization, which decided to focus on the new lead programs. And Acedia Pharmaceuticals, based in San Diego, acquired the UT Dallas startup company and will move the drug through its remaining clinical development, because it will help treat acute postoperative conditions such as well as chronic pain. Yeah. So some clinical tolerability, multiple dosings, oral dosings, peroxyl nitrate. Pretty cool, peroxyl nitrate. That's what it is. So COVID for traveling. This is what you need to know. And mass quarantines and testing is part of the routine. But if you really want to get crazy, they have PCR tests, antigen tests, antibody tests. And which destinations require a test for entry? Well, Cuba does Cyprus. This is so silly. Cyprus does, Germany does. For UK, okay, it's a UK thing. So, Sweden, Cuba. Okay. Well, here I'm just gonna jump right ahead. So, like, why? Well, they used to say you could treat your HIV by going from, say, Africa all the way up to the Netherlands, because the testing standards are different. So this has been silly, but this right here, where the testing for PCR is completely off, test positive, well, they don't actually have been found to have it. It's been hijacked by our technologies. Yeah, technologies of yeah, let's just watch this. So he's talking about how he would measure HIV in his blood. Alright, so basically the inventor of the PCR test is sort of talking against how it is now. It's a very long article, but it talks about how it was done with AIDS, and now it's done with this sort of epidemic. So let's move on. Horror stories! Yeah, this is even better, so I hope you're ready for a horror story. We're getting ready for it. It's happening. Scary stories. Ready. Okay, so trick or treat from Imager Hospital. IMAT is putting cookies on patients. They put cookies on hospitals' patient trays. It's RIP cookies. Right. Smell my feet. This is from Red. I was working as a scribe when we went to see an 8-year-old girl that had a fever. Nothing too remarkable until we started the physical exam. We examined her head, normal. We examined her upper extremities, normal. Then we pulled up the blanket to examine her lower extremities. Her feet were the size of an infant. You should have seen the look on the doctor's face when he was trying to figure out how the girl's feet got so small. The mother looked up at the doctor and saw the look of confusion on his face and said, "Those aren't her feet." She pulled up the blanket a little further, revealing a pair of perfectly healthy feet nestled next to the feet of a doll that she put under the blanket. Ah ha ha, smell my feet. Alright, give me something good to eat. So, when my dad was in his mid-20s, he worked in the emergency department of a hospital. One day, the morbidly obese lady comes in complaining of abdominal pain. They start to look her over. Everything was going fine until they decided to look at the folds of her stomach. When they smelt this horrible smell, they found a decomposed chicken wing covered in maggots, which had started eating the part of her skin. Yum. So we got some scary movies coming to real life. So here's Cujo. Had a woman come in that had either fainted or had a seizure. During her fall, she hit her head on a metal table, which gave her a really nasty scalp laceration. Paramedics arrive and notice she's missing a 5-inch diameter piece of her scalp. They're looking all around and can't find it anywhere. And walks her precious small dog, licking his lips with blood all over his mouth. They said either she was scalped by the table or that the dog ate directly from her head. Either way, the dog ate her scalp. So, this one's The Exorcism. My father and I both worked, as he does, in the hospital of St. Louis, where The Exorcism took place, that the bizarre movie is based off of. The original hospital was torn down, but the one still standing has some bizarre things occur. While I never experienced any, my father has experienced many. Most notably, sitting at his desk, looks up and sees an apparition staring at him. He described it as being transparent, looking as it was made of fine dust. It's clearly a woman and doesn't want anything but to look at him. He said he's spoken to her several times and asked her what she wanted, only for her to exit through the doorway and disappear. And this last one, this one's The Ring. So I used to work at the Steina nursing home. I worked third shift throughout the university. During the night, he turned the lights off, so it was darker for the evening. He didn't get a lot of lights in the residents' rooms. I was sitting in the nurse's station at the top of the hall and heard a call light go off. I stood up and looked down the hall. On all fours, straight out of the ring, a resident with long dark hair that was very thin crawling out of the hall toward me. The other Steina had forgotten to put the bed rail up, and the resident was very good at climbing out of bed. Needless to say, it needed some new britches, and my heart was racing a mile a minute. Thanks. Oh boy, I'm spooked. Alright, so here's some scarier ones, apparently. I'm just gonna read one. Maybe two. Alright, the doctor didn't drink his orange juice. So, doctor didn't drink his orange juice. We all know that we need to drink orange juice and eat fruits regularly, especially during the exam period to get all those vitamins. But how exactly did we acquire this information? Well, it's not like someone will happen if we skipping fruits for weeks. Students basically run on pasta and instant noodles most of the times, right? Well, that was not the case for the Dr. John Condon, which tested exactly what happens to the body after a diet of only cheese, crackers, bread, eggs, beer, sugar on October 1939. He experienced, after several weeks, small hemorrhages in his leg, extreme fatigue. He almost died. For his colleagues' presence to inject him with 1,000 milligrams of vitamin D. What? It's not scary at all. I'm done. I am done. So this is a book, Contagion Myth, and it's sort of talking about unconventional ways to treat viruses. Well, that's a great documentary. Oh no, I don't have time for it, but this last one, it talks about books and reading books, and these are the two books I was talking about. What Makes You Ill, and then the other one was the other one with the Contagion Myth. So, and then this is the biohack of the day. Hope you're excited. Come on, get excited. We got the biohack. Alright, biohack of the day. Research team from University of Turku maps neural activity in response to watching horror movies. Shows top horror movies of the past 100 years and how they manipulate brain activity. Well, they mapped the neural activity, and it seems to have first 72% of people report watching at least one horror movie every 6 months. MRI reveals that the brain copes in response, and anxiety is slowly increasing. Brain involved in visual and cues of threat and sudden shock. The brain is evident. So therefore our brains are continuously anticipating and preparing us for action in response to threat. And horror movies exploit this expertivity to enhance our excitement. Great. Alright, and here's 7 scientific reasons that prove watching horror movies is actually good for your health. 1. Because it can burn nearly 200 calories at a time. 2. Because it can help you cope with anxiety. 3. Because it enhances your brain activity. 4. Because it boosts your immune system. Your adrenaline rush and your body's turn to mobilize our immune system. Because it's good for your relationship. Yeah. Because it can stimulate and trigger your DNA. 7. Because it can help you get rid of stress. Alright, thanks guys. That's all for today. Love you. Have a wonderful day. And as always, take care.